and welcome to another episode of Ask the Expert. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you're tuning in from, or if you're watching the replay. And hey, if you are here live right now, go ahead and say hello. We can see you in the chat here. Say hello, let us know you're here so we can give you a little shout out. And I thank you so much for tuning in today. I am super excited. Today is actually my 13th episode. And it's interesting that it's the number 13 because my special guest today is my brother, Adam, who I'm really excited to talk to him about today. The topic is super fascinating, and I'm excited about that. But 13 is actually our lucky number because both of us were born on August 13th. And no, we are not twins. My brother is 5 years older than me, but just so happened that we were both born on August 13th. So by chance, this happens to be our 13th episode for Ask the Expert, and my guest is my brother. Lucky number 13. All right. Do we all have the potential to create music? Is it ever too late to discover our musical selves? As I mentioned just now, my guest this month is Adam Diaz. He's a chart-topping, award-winning music producer and songwriter who also happens to be my brother. Over the past 4 weeks, Adam set out to teach our vocal students how to compose their own complete melody, even if they don't play an instrument or have any previous music education. Very exciting stuff. Today, we are sharing all the behind the scenes details about Adam's songwriting challenge right here in this episode so that you too can gain insight, tips, and inspiration on how to find the music within you. For those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Crystal Diaz. I'm a singer and vocal coach at CSMA Studio and co-founder of the Online Vocal Academy. The Online Vocal Academy was created really for people who want to be confident singers, but never had the opportunity to really learn how. So through a combination of online learning and live coaching, we teach you how to develop powerful vocal habits so that you can use your voice confidently with skill and style. So if you want to learn how to develop powerful vocal habits are incredibly, incredibly powerful, then you will definitely want to check out our Instant Singer workshop to learn how you can easily hit one note or more higher just by shifting a few existing habits that you may not even realize you currently have. So be sure to visit instantsinger.com or click the link where you're watching this video for all the details. All right, without much further ado, my guest expert today has composed, produced, and co-produced numerous top 10 commercial radio hit songs ranging from pop to rock. He's worked with top record labels like Warner, Universal, EEG, Sun Entertainment, as well as with top artists in Hong Kong like Eason Chen, Nicholas Tse, Jan Lam, Carrie Ng, Jin Lee, 903 DJ Sammy. He started the rock band Dear Jane as a founding member back in 2004 and released 2 albums with them, and later on joined punk rock band Hardpack in 2010 and produced their highly successful farewell album, Never Be the Same. Adam is the founder of Affinity Media Management, which focuses on music production, artist management, and online content creation. Welcome to the 13th episode, lucky number 13. Adam Diaz, hello.
Hi, wow. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
we
good.
can hear you
Wow.
loud and clear.
That is amazing. 13.
Yeah,
What a
random,
coincidence.
right? So it's
Yes.
just, I mean, of course, the stars would align this
Yeah.
way.
It constantly appears in our life one way or another.
Always.
Very interesting.
Always,
Yeah.
always. It is always a thing.
Yeah.
Another story, another time.
Yes. Another topic, that's for sure.
All right. First off, I want to say hey to some people here. Hey, Aurelian. Good morning, he says. Really looking forward to this episode. So am I. And here, hey, Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hey.
Steve's
You're
my
number
husband.
1 fan. You're number 1 fan.
And hello, Jennifer. So lovely to have you join us
Hi,
today.
Jennifer.
And hello, Auntie Lizzie
Oh,
from
wow.
Florida. Thank you for tuning in. I hope
Hi,
it's a
Auntie
good time
Lizzie.
for you over there. Wonder what time it is over there in Florida. And Yen, hello, lovely to
Hi,
see
Yan
you here
Yan.
too. Oh, I see Dr. Aaron is in the house. Hello,
Whoa.
Dr. Aaron. We have a
Long
full
time
house
no
today.
see. Wow.
Yes. All right. First up, I want to know, did you always want to be in the music profession? I don't actually think I know this about you, actually. I mean, did you always know that you wanted to be in the music field?
Uh, to be honest, not. No. I would consider myself a late bloomer, definitely. Despite, our parents being such prominent and well-known musicians, particularly in Hong Kong's music culture. I don't know if that had some invisible pressure on us. So I don't know
I think
actually. I
so.
never thought about it that way, but I was more interested actually in learning about business, quite interestingly enough. And when I went to uh, Vancouver to finish off high school, and then I went into Kwantlen College, and I didn't choose music. I was like interested in business administration, wanted to learn. I even bought books at a young age that was very business related or self development related, and so eventually I what really turned the tide was around, I think it was in the late 90s or mid 90s, I already forget, but I submitted my someone invited me or to try out to take part in a songwriting competition. It's called by it's organized by Cash, the Performance Society in Hong Kong, and I just wrote a really super cheesy ballad, ballad canto ballad type of song, and I thought, well, let's just do this, right? Because I was really into hip hop and rock by that time, so like writing canto pop ballads just wasn't in my DNA at the time, so I thought. And then I just wrote it, and then I got into the top 10, went on to the finalists get to go on to TVB, on to be featured on TVB, a program on TV, and soon after that, I was invited to be signed to I think it was Universal. I think it was Warner. I signed to Warner. I think Warner Chapel, and I just took that as a sign to get into music. To be quite honest, that's how I got in. But it wasn't like when I was like, oh, I wish it was nice and romantic. Like, oh, when I was 5, I knew it was going to be in the music. No, it wasn't like that. No.
But how did you learn to write songs? I mean, opportunities happen, and what's interesting is that it just took one song that you didn't even think it was the genre of it wasn't even something that you were interested in at the time. But it only
Yeah.
took one song. However, there must have been something that you did before in preparation for that. So how did you learn to even put that song together?
Quite honestly, I wasn't. I took piano lessons. Like we both did, right? And by the time I was 4 or 5, I just didn't enjoy it at all. I and our parents knew that, right? And they didn't force us at that point. So I just dropped it. And so I didn't have much education in terms of, or knowledge for that matter, in music theory or the idea of songwriting in general. I was just really listening to a bunch of music all the time. Because back in those days, like, I'm going to really show my age here, and I don't mind. I'm 45 this year, but back then we would. It's like, yeah, back in our day, we were back in our day we would buy CDs. Go to the CD shop if people know what CDs are, still, and then you would look. I'd be one of those guys that look. Oh, this guy looks good, right? And then I'll get the CD, open the insert. I'm one of those guys that, oh, who performed this? Oh, who produced it? Who wrote it? Like I would like read the credits. It's like,
This is books, by the way, in case people are wondering.
no, taking the CD inserts. This, oh
No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
I'm
I
looking
know.
through the CD insert.
Because we
Sorry,
don't
yeah,
have those anymore. We don't
yeah,
have CD
exactly, yeah. It's
inserts
like
really.
CD insert, and it's like a little booklet, and then you look. Whoa, who produced it? Who mixed it? Like I was like kind of like a music nerd in that sense. I don't know if many people really care to look at those credits anymore nowadays. Probably not. Not because they're not interested. I just think they're not as readily as available as back in the day. Because when if you're streaming Spotify, you don't see the credits, right? But anyway, that's a different topic
That's a good
altogether.
point. Actually, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like I would say what really I guess helped me was just listening to like a buttload of music at the time, and I
That's a technical term.
yeah, buttload. And I was into, because of our parents' influence, I was into also the 60s music, and I was listening to reggae as well, a lot of Bob Marley. And then I was really actually, because I'm known more for rock in Hong Kong, when people like, but I actually was more into hip hop in the very beginning. So I was listening to a lot of like Run DMC, Young MC. A lot of you probably don't know who these people are, because you're a totally different, different generation. But I mean, it was something that really molded me in terms of like understanding, because I never formally learned music arrangement or producing or mixing. It was a lot of like going on the forums, learning, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? There's like a really great music forum called Gear Sluts. Don't ask me why they call it that, but it's a very well-known forum. Yeah, no, I mean, it's nothing pornographic. No, it's like literally gear and talking about audio stuff, right? And it really helped, I think, a lot of people, because you could get really geeked out on gear and specs and stuff like that on that forum. And I learned a lot through there and other forums and talking to other musicians. And it really, that's how I learned. This challenge that we created recently, which is already almost completed pretty much. I never had these types of opportunities, and I thought, with this experience, I'm sure we're going to go into it later, but the experience really showed me that if I had like a close knit forum where you could just discuss this, I probably, would have been able to ramp up my knowledge a lot further and not get so discouraged, because it's, I mean, aside, we always talk about the talent and the musical aspect and the technical know-how, but I think there's an even greater proponent to being successful or pursuing this thing that we call music, and that's just discipline, to be honest. That's something that, it sounds really cliche to say, but it's real. I would say 50% of the battle. Learning how to do like music arrangement, learning the latest techniques with Logic Pro or Pro Tools. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, and it definitely has its place. But it's the mindset, the discipline on how you actually pursue and actually get things done. I think that is half the battle, to be honest. Yeah,
100%. I couldn't
yeah.
agree more. And I think also, you know, the importance of that mindset in terms of just taking one step and then the next step and then the next step. I think where people potentially get discouraged from learning music or whatever skill that they're interested in is that we look at the entire mountain and we think, well, I didn't start early enough. So it's really hard. I think it's too late for me to learn or whatnot. But as you said, sure, we can look at it that way. We can look at it in terms of like, oh, this stuff I need to learn, and there's so many things. But really, all it takes is just one step, and that one step cultivates your interest further, and then you take another step, and then you meet people, and then you get into an environment. And of course, the songwriting challenge, that was one of, I think what you shared with me before was one of your goals, is to speed people through that so that they can experience that quick win and getting them to move on to the next level, to the next stage, just to continue to cultivate that interest, because it's so, this journey itself, you learn a lot about yourself just through discovering your interest and taking one step at a time. But I want to go back to what you said about back in the old days, back when we were, and
Back in my day.
yes, I'd love to know, what was one song that you had on repeat growing up?
Oh, wow. Like I alluded to earlier in the conversation, a lot of people know I'm known more for rock in Hong Kong, but I was really into hip hop a lot earlier, before, because like what really turned the tide for me was when Green Day came out with their Dookie album in '94, which probably many of you haven't been born yet, but in '94 that really changed the tech. I was into hip hop heavily up until '94. I'm still into hip hop. Don't get me wrong, but I started. That's when I really wanted to learn the guitar, learning how to
Mm.
play those Green Day songs, right? So, but so back to the question, hip hop was definitely something I was really interested early on, and I would, if I had to pick one song, it would be, because it really has a special place in my memory, and that's "Summertime" by Will Smith. I don't know if
Oh,
you remember that song.
yeah. Yeah,
You remember that?
it's like coming in waves into my mind right now.
It for me, because growing up, I don't know, I was watching a lot of MTV back then when actually MTV had music and not all these reality shows. But and it was it really inspired me, just how the music video was, how that I'm for me, that's the interesting part, I think, about music, is that there is really literally no one way to say this is how you should analyze this piece of music, or this is how you should be inspired. Like, everyone's inspired by totally different things. I mean, and it's could be abstract and vague, that you can't pinpoint it, with some sort of specific way, like some calculated way, right? But for me, like, the way I consume entertainment or media or music is like, I look at the whole picture, and then the music video, how Will was rapping, the beat of the song, the bass line, the lyrical content. It just, for me, it was like a perfect storm where it really whoa. And I was listening to that song all the time. And if I
Do you
listened to
think
it now, it would really probably, drum up a lot of childhood memories, to be honest. Yeah.
and so I was going to ask you about that. What do you think are the key ingredients needed for a song to stick? I know you mentioned that there's no real one thing, but in general, do you think that there are some key things that, in order for a song to really stick in people's minds, it should at least have these elements?
I think the very obvious one would be, obviously, the hook, the melodic hook, or the lyrical content. Because
Mm.
sometimes the but it really depends on the individual listening. Going back to what I was just talking about just moments ago, some people may be just infatuated with the lyrical content. It just hits them at that right moment, the right time. It may not be even a stellar melody. It may not even be a stellar production. It may just be just one guitar, even maybe an out of tune guitar for that matter. But it just, yeah, but just at that moment, at that point in time, in that person's life, at that point in time in their life experience, they come across a song with the lyrical content just hits them right in their soul. That is enough. Like, that is enough. It doesn't have to be technically, oh man, this is modulating through five different keys, amazing technical achievement. I mean, like, why not just strum five? It could be literally three chord song with an out of tune guitar, with probably a droning, very non-dynamic melody, but because the lyrics just hits that person at the right time at the right place, and that's really enough. It could be the other way around. For me, actually, I don't really pay attention to lyrics that much. Like, that's just me. I know I'm weird like that, because maybe because I was, I don't know. In Chinese, you call it "tik yi bang." It's like, how do you say that in English? I don't even
Professional disease. It
know.
sounds bad. It's not a professional disease. It's not a disease. It's like
即業病點
there is a
講？
word. There is a word like a habits of the trade kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess habits of the trade. Maybe
Yeah.
some people would say poor habits of the trade in some ways. I guess depends how you look at it. But because I'm always, when I'm listening to a song, I'm already trying to break down. Okay, so what is he doing with the kick? He has got a double snare there. Okay, interesting. Why did he do that? And then I'm thinking, oh, he has a delay on the vocals. Well, the reverb is really big on this. And then, oh, why did he do a shuffle beat there when like, I'm like already trying to dissect the song, and then I it became, for a moment, and at one point, it became really difficult for me to enjoy a song.
I feel the
It
same
really
way
did.
about live performances. Don't I totally get it.
Okay.
Like,
Oh,
stop
okay.
thinking about their belt. Stop
Oh, yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about their mix.
yeah. And it got to a point. I guess that's the whole point of, like, the habits of the trade. It actually becomes a little bit of annoyance, because you can't enjoy the moment and just enjoy what you're listening to or watching. So yeah, I think it really depends on the person, and it sounds like a cop out to answering the question, but that's just the best answer I can give. It's sometimes for me, sometimes it's not the lyrics, sometimes it's the lyrics for someone else. For me, sometimes it might just be the way a guitar sounds. I like this song, and I don't even know what he's talking about or singing about. I just like it, you know.
I think also part of that is discovering and thinking with intention, because I think there's listening to music kind of in the background, and then there's paying attention to music, and there's
Hmm.
paying attention like in what you were saying. And I think that that is one thing that people can do to start exploring music potentially, and that's something we all can do without even going into any kind of education, without even knowing, oh, what is a snare, or what. I mean, just listening with intention to how the singer is singing, or how the music is put together, and oh, where is the hook, what is the line that I'm constantly repeating, or what is that melodic line that I'm hearing in my head. I think that once you start to think along those lines, you are already going into the world of music in a deeper way, in a more appreciative way. And from what you've described, I think that's almost, I mean, you and I grew up that way. We grew up seeing the behind the scenes music of, what it takes to put on a performance, what it means to practice, the discipline. And that became our sort of quote unquote formal music education. Interestingly, neither my brother or myself actually went to university for music. We studied something
No,
completely different,
yeah,
right? But we both ended up in music careers. So, like,
yeah, go
what's up
figure.
with that,
Yeah.
right? All right. I'd love to talk a little bit about the songwriting challenge. So, again, as mentioned earlier, at the beginning of this month, you kicked off your songwriting challenge with the goal of teaching singers, many of whom do not play an instrument or have any kind of formal music training, how to compose their own melodies. So I'd love to know, what was that experience like for you as the creator of this challenge?
I It forced me to almost go back to the early days, like when we were still living under in the same house back in Satin, right? And that was when I remember I had this Yamaha. I think it was our father. He had this Yamaha MD8 back then. It's like an 8-track recorder thing, and it uses an MD disc. I guess one of those things. Probably many of you don't know what it is, but it's called a mini disc, right? So no, that was like my sort of like one of the first pieces of recording gear that I'm like, whoa, right? It's like, and you got a mixer, tactile, like physical knobs and faders and stuff. So and then back then I had to figure out how to create a song, like from beginning to end. When I was making demos, right? So when I was creating this songwriting challenge, I almost had to channel, if that makes sense. I had to channel that memory of like, okay, if I was back in that position, what would I really want to learn? Like, what would I want to fast track that took maybe 3 years, 4 or 5 years to learn at a really slow rate? But what if I could just really speed that up over the course of just 1 month, for example, you know? And so that's what I did. I One of the biggest problems that a lot of people have, and I've talked to a lot of, and I know a lot of musicians, is just finishing a song.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finishing a song. Write that, write that melody, lyric, what are you doing, and just finish it. Not just have it as a, like I mentioned a lot in my feedback videos in the challenge, and people probably getting sick of me repeating myself, but that I gotta say it. I don't care. I mean, if you don't, because this is something that even I have to tell myself. You probably have to tell yourself this too. You have to finish the song. Otherwise it just remains some like a figment in your imagination, like literally, right? So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so I think the songwriting challenge, it was, the point of it was not for me to, oh dude, how can we make you the next greatest songwriter? No, it's because for some reason, or for some people, the reason of being a songwriter may not be to write or pitch for other people, maybe just to write for themselves. In fact, I dare say a lot of people are doing that right now nowadays too, right? So this sort of delves into a little bit of self-development territory rather than just purely musical content, because if that's something that you want to do, you like I what I alluded to earlier, half the battle, probably even more, is just getting disciplined to finishing your song. So that is the point for me. That was the entire, I guess, focus of this challenge for me, was how do I get a bunch of people to actually complete a song. I don't care if it sounds bad, quote unquote, or good, whatever. I mean, you learn through failure anyways in anything pretty much, right? So just get it done first. So that was the key focus for me with creating this songwriting challenge.
I think that there's so many ways that we can interpret this in our own lives as well, but definitely that complete it, because that process is, it's not about let me have this, like you said, this hit song. Is let me just finish one thing, because that one thing leads to the next. And it goes
Yes.
back to the same thing as we talked about before. It's just one step. Learn the verse, figure out the verse. Okay, that's done. Figure out the pre-chorus, figure out that's done, the bridge or whatnot, the hook. Figure those little mini steps out, and then the next obvious step will kind of show itself to you. But what I love about what you explained is, from what I understand, is that you had to reverse engineer, right? You had to
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer what took you years and decades to learn, into a 4-week course that people can just digest, even if they don't have any kind of musical background, even if they don't believe that they could actually come up with a creative melody line. You have to reverse engineer that and speed them through it. But I think what's key here, and then you touched on this, I think this is the key point, is that the challenge created a framework in which people would be able to complete. It was structured in a way that enabled people to complete a project so that they can take that next step. So I really enjoy being on the sidelines and checking that out and watching that process as well. And I'd love to know, what did you personally learn from this experience?
It would sound like I'm lecturing, but I call it tough love, right? But it what it's interesting in these challenges or these courses how it mirrors real life a lot of the times, and I see a lot of, and I'm not trying to get up on my soapbox and like, oh, you look, I have this problem myself, so I'm totally transparent about it, is and we were talking about it just now, is like getting it done. I think we have what, 30 people, how many people
30,
in the
more than
industry?
like 32, I think 33.
We have
Yeah.
people that I dare say maybe less than 5 people participated in actually submitting the week to week challenges, right? And I mean that's not an issue, and I'm not lecturing, but that just shows that how no one can help you. Not any amount of course, even if you learn from the top people in the industry, you know, and but if you're not gonna take the steps to get it done, whether it's for a challenge or not, for yourself. We meet a lot of people who are they want to do something. I mean, you and I have had so many conversations on how we can help this person, how we can help that person, and it's a lot of the times we don't give ourselves permission to do certain things, right? This is going to get a little cheesy because it's now starting to delve into a little bit of self development issue, content. I'm no Anthony Robbins, so I'm not trying to act like him, but it is a part of it. It totally is a part of it, because I read a lot about self development as well, aside from just listening to music or watching movies, trying to getting inspiration. So that is a huge part of it, and what remains a dream in our minds actually stays that way. So what I learned from this challenge, unfortunately, it mirrors real life, that a lot of people weren't able to participate. And look, I'm not try to guilt trip anyone here, but because I mean, many of us have kids, we have day jobs, we're going through some stress, maybe financial issues because of the pandemic and what's the world's been going through. A lot of people have a lot of things on their mind, and rightfully so, to be very honest. So like there's a lot of various reasons for that. But then if for those people who are really wanting to pursue this either as a genuine career, like a side gig, or something that they really want to explore as a creative individual, or maybe they really want to release their single and second single and third single on Spotify, and just have that distributed throughout the internet, whatever, you're going to have to get disciplined. So I think that's one thing. I would say that I learned in this process is that that unfortunately, and for me as well, I've had so many ideas that I recorded on my phone, but I haven't finished it. So it's not just you; it's me as well. We all have to keep, how do you say, really on top of things in terms of how our mindset is. Trying to complete this
You
process.
know, I think it's so timely how you talked about this, because it is something that I feel many of us kind of deep down we know, but we
Yeah.
don't get reminded of it enough. And I think now more so than ever, when things are unpredictable, we do need to take ownership of certain things. And I just reading this book called The Power of Habits. And it's true how
Mm.
they talk about it is that one tiny little habit, one little shift, it could be something completely unrelated to the ultimate goal that you want. It could just be getting up 10, half an hour earlier in the morning, like that.
Yes.
Or like
Yes.
making your
Yes.
bed in the morning, like one little shift actually leads to the next step, leads to the next step. But I think the key
Yes.
point here is that it's so easy to go off track. It's so easy to allow ourselves to, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And I think if we can put ourselves in an environment where there are opportunities and there's a framework for us to complete something, just doing that process, whether it's singing or whether it's writing a song, actually trains us to develop that discipline muscle, so that when we are going into that routine, even if it's just composing a line and then posting it, or like practicing for 5 minutes or practicing for 10 minutes and then logging that practice, that discipline, we could think about it in terms of, yeah, but that's just singing. That's just music. That's not going to help
Yes.
me win a promotion at work. That's not going to help
Yeah.
me get, like, don't underestimate that, my friend. Like, seriously, that process of just getting into that habit of just getting something done, that little win that you're getting, infuses so many areas of your life. And I mean, you and I, we see that happening all the time. And for me personally, that was a reminder to myself. Because again, this is not a you thing. This is not an anybody thing. This
No,
is a
no. We
universal
have
thing.
sometimes we're talking to ourselves. Even when I'm talking right now, I'm talking to myself, to be very honest. Like
100%.
I
Yeah.
I really I've when I started Dear Jane and combining a lot of the other projects I've been involved with, I've released not like a whole buttload of songs, the technical term again. I haven't released a buttload of songs, but a decent amount of songs over the years, and like commercially. And um but I still feel there's a lot more within me that I'm barely scratching the surface. And my parents, our parents keep reminding me, Adam, don't quit, don't quit, don't stop, because life happens. You have two kids, I have two kids. There's the stresses of life, being a parent. It's very easy to, like you say, get off track, or maybe stay on the track that you are, and then not make the adjustments to pursue other things at the same time. So it works both ways. But I think that awareness is so key, because if we're just talking about, it's very nice and fun and applicable to talk about technique, music theory, song structure, production techniques, and stuff like that. Like that all has its place and is important in any type of course or program or forum. But I think what really doesn't get talked about enough, which really is the one ingredient that's going to get you over the hurdle, is that mindset. Just get a
Yeah,
song done, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I love this conversation. And the good news is that it's not going to end for those who are in the OVA membership and those who are songwriting challenges as well. But I'd love to know what's coming up next for you that we can look forward to learning more about.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's coming up next for you? What's on the horizons for you?
Well, I released a song last year, a single, and was able to get it on the radio, thankfully, because it was wholly an independent release. I didn't have any record label backing me. I didn't have any promoters helping me, and I literally sent an email out to a contact I had. No, it was an email or message, I forgot. And then I emailed my song to a radio station, and they aired it on the radio station, like one of the top radio stations in Hong Kong. And I was like, whoa. So I don't know if they remember me from back in the day, or they're, maybe they maybe they really like the song. I don't know, but that really encouraged me to wanted to pursue that even more. So like, because I've really more been the guy behind the scenes all these years, and now in my 40s, it's 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 a little bit of a trip trying to say that, oh, I'm worthy enough to be the guy in, that's actually leading the charge, rather than the guy that's sort of like the nerd in the back, just like, you know trying to figure out how to create a song, in the background, right? So like, because for me, like, what I really wanted to do, because when you work in that setting, there's a lot of compromise, and it needs to happen. You need to have compromise in that situation. But with me releasing my own material, it's like I don't really have to compromise that much, or like I can do it. I can think of the MV the way I envision it. I can pursue a sound that I want without having to compromise really too much. Like, this is really how I envision it, almost sculpting it the way that I want it. So like it was a very rewarding experience, and that's something that I want to pursue more this year, in the coming
Awesome.
years. Yeah, releasing more of my own stuff, and
Well,
also my YouTube channel. Yeah,
Well, I
which
was going to ask about that.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think what you just said is something that many of us can relate to. I think we get into this mindset of, well, I have to do this, get a job, or like go to college, get a job, and do this and do it this way because that's how it's supposed to be done. But then we get to a certain age in our lives where we realize there's other ways of doing things. And if this pandemic has taught us anything, is that life does not really happen according to plan, right? So
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's important to get back into that. And that's where I think creativity comes in. Getting back to your creative self, so through music or through any kind of creative outlet, so that you can also realize that there are options for you, that it's never too late to start something to get into something that you're interested in, to get in something that you love, because that's what life is about, right?
exactly.
It's not
Content.
about just
Yeah,
getting one foot in front of the other until you die, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Content creation right now is amazing, and that's what really interests me. Aside from music, even video production, learning about it, even photography, collaborating with other people on different types of projects is something I hope for to do in the coming future.
where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, Instagram, you know, DMs, the
What's
usual
your
that.
Instagram? Okay, so wherever you're watching this video right now, scroll to the bottom. You'll see all the links to connect
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that.
Social media,
and
that's the typical
and
stuff.
check
Yeah.
out his YouTube channel as well. You can check out his song that he released last year that he was talking about, and all of his weekly, monthly content as well. All right. Thank you so much. We've taken up more of your time than I intended, but this conversation was just too fascinating to end. OVA members and songwriting challengers, don't forget that we will be continuing this conversation about singing, songwriting, artistry in our private Zoom session with Adam coming up in just a couple of minutes. So we'll see you there. To everyone else tuning in right now, remember, if you want to learn how you can easily hit one note or more higher simply by shifting some habits. We talked a lot about habits today and the power of that. Habits that you might not even realize you have. Then go to instantsinger.com to check out the Instant Singer Workshop. Again, thank you to my brother and special guest, Adam, and to all of you
Yes,
for spending
no
time with us
problem.
today. This was a
Thanks for joining
fascinating
us, everyone.
conversation. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's a lot of comments here. So I'm just going
Yeah,
to
I
make
don't
sure
see
that
it.
you don't
I
see
don't
it.
see it.
You got to go onto the chat. On the top, you should see a thing that says chat.
Oh,
Jay is here. Solera.
hmm.
Oh, Solera says, yes, I remember Adam. Here goes. Yes, I remember Adam saying
Oh,
that in one of the
wow.
videos. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be that student with an unfinished song. Hey, love it. And Solera says here, actually felt so good to finish. And I haven't written a song since I was 18. So fun,
Wow,
Solera. We're going to be checking out your song in
congratulations.
the Zoom session too. Jay says, I would love to do the next challenge if there is one. Jay, you are in the membership. You can do this challenge and you can complete it even on your own and share it with us in the membership too. Solera says, yeah, you can't help someone who can't help themselves. Atomic Habits. I just bought that book, Solera. That is my next read. I just
Oh, is
finished.
that a good book?
It's so
I
good.
saw this.
I heard a lot of
Okay,
reviews. So I just
awesome.
finished The Power of Habits. And that's on my list for the next one. So I love that you say that. Jay says thank you, and Jennifer says here, thank you so much for doing this. I really enjoyed it. It was very helpful and insightful. So glad that you are
Wow.
here and you joined us for this.
Thanks
All
for
right.
joining us. Definitely.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Okay, thank you, brother. I will
Thank you,
see you.
sister.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see members in the Zoom channel. So go ahead and pop into the Zoom room right now, and we'll continue and see you there. To everyone else, thank you, and see you all again next time. See you, Melody.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.